You're worth less than the dirt you died on, cretin.
Let's get one thing straight here. These video essays, or anything else you'd like to call them, are mostly centered around my own opinion. Which is fine, and it's good that some of you disagree or agree with me from time to time. But I think there's one opinion I'm certain a majority of you can agree with. The PDR fucking sucks. There it is. There's your title card. Not the actual video title, obviously, because adding fucking to my title isn't a very good idea. Anyway, if you're utterly clueless, this video is about the personal death ray. And no, I'm not out of ideas. I just genuinely wanted to talk about this. So why don't we start with what the PDR does and, well, is. The PDR is an alternative to the shotgun, or more likely an alternative to the gunboats or a banner, because who uses shotguns on Trooper? The PDR shoots a little laser projectile fueled by a bottomless reserve, meaning you'll never run dry on ammo. So just kind of shake the gun or whatever this move is, and then you're all reloaded. Not too shabby, a lot of good stats here for some pretty tiny downsides. I mean, who needs building damage when you have a rocket launcher? There's the part that this projectile is kind of at a crawling speed here. Even compared with the G-bomb, it's only a little faster than it, which it's also kind of weird that the stats don't mention this speed at all. But it's whatever, our classic trade-off for a side grade. That is kind of the point of a side grade after all. So maybe we're giving up our hit skin ability of a shotgun in change for a slower, single-fire projectile. Surely we get some big buff to damage, assuming the decreased speed and the single shot changes to it. 35 damage? You're fucking kidding me. I'm not gonna beat around the bush forever. This is definitely some of the worst secondary damage you can get in TC2. And if you think that 35 is a decent amount of damage, you might want to think on a bigger scale here. One full clip of the PDR, 4 shots, does on average 140 damage, at almost point blank. A full damn shotgun clip at this range does, well, more than you'll ever need. And as soon as you lose a little range, this thing becomes a actual nightmare to aim with. Mainly since the enemy has enough time to literally just walk out of the way of your handicapped projectile. This all just begs the question of why the hell would you ever choose to use this thing? We're giving up so much for our abilities of a shotgun or a banner in exchange for what? Really, what? Side grades are, most of the time, supposed to be giving up some part of a weapon in exchange of an increase in something else. But the PDR has nothing good going for it, and I really mean that. But the PDR didn't always have nothing going for it. I used to love using the PDR. I mean, I've got a big chunk of kills on this thing. This name doesn't mean much now, more close to average danger than the deadliest. But again, it wasn't always like this. Thanks to the 2020 TC2 archive, we can get a bit of a taste of what the PDR's prime was like. We're missing a few good stats here, but we have the number one thing we need. Collaterals. And you might be wondering, but the current PDR also has collaterals. It's the top stat listed right here. Only it doesn't. It's a lie. It only says it has them. And why doesn't it have them anymore? Because it actually used to be good with them. The old PDR here roughly averages its damage around 70 to 140 per shot. Since it still does 35 per hit, but now it hits most targets a couple of times before fully passing through them. This is how I imagine the trade-off of the shotgun, a high-damage projectile that is slow and easy to dodge. The PDR works in a fairly balanced scene here, maybe some limits on our collats per target so we don't have cases where the PDR does an absurd amount of damage randomly. And then we'd be pitch perfect here. This is all great, but what exactly happened to the PDR? Well, TC2 devs being TC2 devs, fun is the number one disallowed rule. So on the night of Typical Horrors 2 release, our collateral ability of the PDR was silently turned off. And to rub salt in the wound, it was kept set in the stats. Perhaps it's a glitch, you might add. And I'd hope as much, but it's been a long time since these collaterals have been gone, and I think it's a little too late to consider this a mistake. I miss the PDR. As silly and probably still worse than a shotgun as it was, even with collaterals, at least I could take down one dude with it reliably. Is that not basically the bare minimum to a weapon? It's a real struggle to kill an unoverhealed kunai agent with this thing. I think that says a lot about it. This video acts as a plea for somebody who can to bring back the PDR to its heyday. To an extent, of course. I would usually give some kind of final message about how the weapon could sometimes be good or how you could use it well in certain situations, but I really got nothing for you about the PDR. Seriously, trash this thing. There is no point to ever put the PDR in your secondary slot. And maybe, at some point in time, that'll change someday. But I don't imagine it ever will. But now it hits most targets a couple of times before fully passing through them.